Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Mick and the Fat Man. That's right, folks. Series 6, episode number 10, and we are coming to you live from various parts of Australia. I'm up north in Cairns. Mick's in the southern studios. G'day, Mick. Happy rock and roll to you, sir. And how are you travelling?
Mate, given the distance between us, I'm just fine. Just great, actually.
Oh, we are both jumping out of our skins. I've been up here in the tropical north enjoying the beautiful tropics, which one could call rain. It's supposed to be the dry season, but it's not. It's quite rainy, so it's a bit annoying.
2,500 kilometres away, and it's raining here too.
Good God. Oh, well, there you go. It's raining everywhere across Australia, even in the desert maybe. Anyway, so as I said, we've got another exciting episode for us. Mick, unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring the Globite travel bag all the way to the North Coast. I know you've got it still there. I know you've got it in the corner. I know it's banging away. We don't have any... I'm asking you to be quiet today because I am in a sort of a more residential area where I am. So if we keep the clicks to a minimum, just ever so gently unzip the bag and reveal what is inside that magnificent designer interior.
Mate, well, I've already taken the liberty of unclipping all of the locks, just so we didn't have to spread that noise across the airwaves.
Beautiful.
And guess what's inside?
No idea.
It's Kate Bush.
Kate Bush. God, I love Kate. She's a ripper.
You do indeed.
She is an absolute ripper. Well, that is exciting. We look forward to the rollicking adventure that will be Kate Bush. But before we do that, I do want to just maybe do a little bit of...
What do heaven just keeps getting better as our artists are passing away. But we remember then here with words of good cheer and a love that will not fade away as we knock on heaven's door.
That's right, folks. We're knocking on heaven's door, and I've got a couple of notable deaths of recent times. The first one, Mick, is... now, I can't pronounce his name. I think it's a Locorriere or something like that. How do you pronounce his name?
Locorriere.
Locorriere, Denis Locorriere. Died at the age of 76, co-founder, guitarist and vocalist for the Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show band. But unfortunately died of kidney disease. That'll get you.
Mate, can't survive without a kidney.
No. What was some of his... There was the two singers, the guy with the patch and the guy with the beard. Which one was he?
He was the guy with the beard, the one that they brought in because he was better looking than the guy with the patch.
The prettier one.
He was definitely the pretty one in the band, yes.
Right. Excellent. Well, unfortunately, he's gone to God.
Well, he's gone, yeah. Look, but they've left us their somewhat illustrious career. I find that after their early stuff, I'd kind of lost interest. It was very much commercial radio fodder.
I never really gained an interest in the band, to be really honest with you.
I must say, I do like two of their early singles, Sylvia's Mother and Cover of the Rolling Stone.
Cover of the Rolling Stones, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but after that, things like Walk Right In, When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman, they're just meaningless fodder.
They were indeed. Anyway, Sylvia's Mother. Sylvia's mother said, what did she say? Sylvia's mother said.
Sylvia's packing. She's catching the 9 o'clock train or the 5 o'clock train, one of those.
Oh, never mind. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I do. You know where Sylvia's going, don't you?
Gets
played on the
McDonald's?
radio. Well, she's going to McDonald's. She's heading down Galveston way. But she was leaving to have an abortion.
Oh, that's a little bit... When did this song come out, do you reckon? 70s or 80s, maybe?
In the 70s, I think. Yeah.
Oh, a bit of a taboo subject back in those days.
Well, it was, and they deliberately left it vague in the song. But as it was written originally by Shel Silverstein, there was another verse at the end that said that's where she was going, and Oh, there's a few songs like that. Ben Folds had one, but it's not really something that people on AM radio or FM commercial radio really want to hear. Yeah, they don't want to hear about icky stuff like that.
No, they just want to brush over it, just walk right in and sit right down, sort of thing. Don't they?
Well, that's exactly what they do. The other song you mentioned, cover of the Rolling Stone. Mm-hmm. Rolling Stone actually got into the joke, and once that song was a hit, they put them on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
Right, that's actually quite good.
Yeah, so kudos to Rolling Stone for having a sense of humour.
There you go. Not something we attribute to them very often.
And we rarely, if ever, say anything good about Rolling Stone, but sometimes they are.
Well, I think the thing with Rolling Stone is they're one of the institutions that you actually need, because without them, we wouldn't have anything to say about them. It would be a little bit dull, wouldn't it? So we thank them for that.
Thank you, fellas, for adding fodder for our program.
That's it. Mike Vernon, aged 81, legendary record producer, sort of blues focused, also passed away. I can't tell you when he died. He died recently, though.
He did. Look, Mike Vernon, mate, he's probably the most famous record producer you've never heard of.
Right.
He was big in the 60s and a bit of the 70s, and he did a lot of stuff. As you say, he focused on blues. He produced John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, John Mayall's Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton.
Great album.
Yes, indeed. He's done a whole lot of stuff. He did a lot of work with the earlier incarnation of Fleetwood Mac.
And they're a bit more bluesy.
Well, yeah, when they had Peter Green on guitar before he went off his rocker and went off and joined an ashram or something. So, the song Albatross.
Yep.
And even just singing it like that, I wonder if that was any influence on David Gilmour.
You know what, though? When you think about Albatross, it could not be so more removed than the later incarnation of Fleetwood Mac. I mean, it's just so different to anything they ever did in their heyday.
Well, the rumours was Lindsay Buckingham and
Stevie Nicks.
And Stevie Nicks, thanks. Yeah, I was going to call her Rhiannon something or other, but
with the Mac,
which was sort of right.
With the Mac and the V sort of in the background, just standing there.
well, exactly right. Yeah.
Whereas those two are up front, just fucking ripping at the shreds.
Yeah, well, and I think that's Mark. We've gone 8 minutes into the podcast before you drop the first F-bomb, so that's memorable restraint for you.
Oh, I need to fix. I'm sorry about that, folks. I should have been a little bit quicker off the mark. Bit of neglect on my part.
Yeah. Mike Vernon, other stuff he did. He, funnily enough, recorded Bowie's first album, so he's had a bit of crossover with the things that we listen to. It wasn't much of an album, Bowie's first album. He was. He had more ambition than he had experience and talent back in those. Now
that wasn't as Davey. He did do an album as David Jones, didn't he, or not?
He was David Jones in the lower third when he recorded this, but it was released as David Bowie.
Okay.
Yeah, and it had things like "Love You Till Tuesday" and "Please, Mr. Gravedigger," which were very, very poppy, fairly ordinary songs. Yeah, I don't know that they gave much of a hint to the glory that was coming, in Space Oddity and Ziggy Stardust and everything through the 70s. There was no hint of Heroes there.
You know what? I don't think I've ever listened to the album. So
no, save yourself.
Okay.
And that's from a Bowie tragic.
Yes, indeed.
Don't really go out of your way to listen to it.
Strong advice.
He did a lot of work with Bo Diddley and Southern blues artists like that, people around the Mississippi and Louisiana area.
Right.
And obligatory Rod Stewart moment. Warning.
Bing, bing, bing. I haven't got the theme tune for the Rod Stewart.
Oh, thank God, because it's a bloody awful theme.
It's
It's not one of your better ones. Yeah, but he actually produced the 4 CD box set called Storyteller, which is called Storyteller, the Complete Anthology, 64 through 90. And it really does highlight how Rod Stewart got his reputation. I mean, I think post-Atlantic Crossing, he became commercial radio stadium fodder and fairly dull. But back in the day, back in the 60s and early 70s, he was fantastic. And he worked with all of the great guitarists, Jeff Beck, for instance.
Indeed.
He did a lot of work, and he was very rocky.
I'm a little bit offended by what you said about Rod. I don't think there's been a rock god like Rod who has been able to kick as many soccer balls into an audience as he has. If you remember,
certainly a challenge that will remain forever.
That was probably the top of the pops of the show when you went to see him. He'd kick a few footies out there, and boy, did it set the crowd on fire.
Didn't he hit some girl on the nose with a soccer ball and she sued him?
Probably.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, dear, anyway.
Should have at least asked for him to autograph the ball afterwards or autograph a nose.
That's right. Look, let's move on. A couple of untimely deaths, of course. David Clayton Thomas, famous of Blood, Sweat and Tears. And I found another fellow by the name of George Wadenius, a Swedish multi-instrumentalist, who was also in the Blood, Sweat and Tears from 1972 to 1975. You know what? I kind of liked Blood, Sweat and Tears, but I never heard a couple of their songs, and I thought they were good. And I've never listened to the X number of albums, quite a lot of albums that they actually made. But anyway, I can't see them recovering from these two deaths and doing a comeback tour somehow.
I can't see it. But yeah, you're right. Their early stuff was really good, really punchy. Real big band with a gravelly, soulful voice of David Clayton Thomas. Excellent.
And horns, big horns, lots of horns. Yeah, they were a great band. Philip Anthony Campbell, Welsh rock musician, not to be mistaken for Filthy Phil, believe it or not.
No, totally to be mistaken for Filthy Phil.
Different bloke. Filthy Phil was the drummer. This was the guitarist.
Oh, of course. I mean, when you got a band that's chock-a-block full of Phils.
And this guy, interestingly, at the age of 12, I found this little bit on him. At the age of 12, he met Lemmy after a Hawkwind gig and asked him for an autograph. And then in 1984, he joined the band, was passed an audition to become the guitarist for the band and stayed with it until Lemmy, unfortunately, passed away. Also had a band with his sons called Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. So, yeah.
Well, I know we've talked in the past, never meet your heroes, but clearly there's one that paid off.
Yeah, so he's a Welsh dude. But anyway, let's move on. Let's veil to all those folks, and hope you enjoy rock and roll heaven with the entourage that's up there nowadays. 1001 albums you must listen to before you die. Thank you, Mr. Robert Dimery. The Birthday Party from 1982, Mick. The album Junkyard, produced by Tony Cohen and a bunch of others. The cover art illustrated by Big Daddy Ed Roth, famous for creating Ratfink, but famous for his hot rod drawings, which he used to go to hot rod shows in America and actually do drawings on the spot for people. So quite the artist. And this is an interesting cover, which is a very good example of the Big Daddy Roth position. The album actually got to number 40 somewhere. I don't know where exactly. But, Mick, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown on the Birthday Party?
Well, I will, mate. And as you know, you detest them and I love them.
Look, you know what? This morning I gave them another listen. I thought, I need to have another listen.
I can see your ears are bleeding.
I was thinking, whoa, fuck, this is a lot. This is a lot. I had to have a little lie down in a Valium after listening to it, and just to prepare myself for the podcast, because my God, it's got a bit of energy and it's got a bit of chaos and it's got a bit of manic guitar. Look, on retrospect, it's a great album. Not my cup of tea, but this is a genuinely ragey, crazy album. Tell us about it.
Matt, sure. Yeah, this is not your cup of tea is probably one of the milder descriptions you've made
Sure.
of the birthday party over the years. Yeah, I think I don't know why, but I missed the birthday party first time around, and only got into them backtracking via Nick Cave. I got into the first couple of Nick Cave albums, so I was only a year or two out, and by that stage Mick Harvey had smoothed a lot of his rough edges off, or a lot of the rough edges that he liked in his recording. The Birthday Party were a Melbourne band who delighted in confrontation musically and in every other way with their audience. They delivered music that was had a ramrod rhythm section. Phil Calvert and Tracy Pugh. Phil Calvert on drums, Tracy Pugh on bass, and Mick Harvey on rhythm guitar. And Mick Harvey, as you would know,
and in fact, that rhythm section is solid as a rock. That bass player is an absolute fucking ripper. He really is good,
yes,
really good. And if you strip away the rest of the music going on, there is a very, very solid rhythm section there underpinning the band.
Well, absolutely, and the band would have just exploded in every possible way without that great rhythm section, because a rock solid, straight down the line rhythm section like that really allowed Roland Howard on lead guitar and Nick Cave to indulge their whims audio wise. Howard long abandoned the fairly straight approach from a lead guitarist in favour of guitar noises. He practically strangled his guitar on stage, and some of the noises that you'll hear on this album, just awesome sound. But certainly, we're not there's no Mark Knopfler here.
No, that's very true, because he is actually really attacking the guitar and producing sounds that are unique, without a doubt, unique sounds. And I think this gives a great foil, as we talked about the rhythm, but there's a great foil for him and for Nick Cave to go a little bit fucking bonkers. And I saw a live clip on YouTube with them doing something live, and Cave is fucking insane. He's insane, and his hair is just insane, and the whole thing is just on the edge.
Absolutely. Look, you'd be crazy to say there wasn't drugs involved. They're all addicted to drugs to one degree or another. Harvey less so, because Harvey was probably the straight man in an otherwise chaotic band. But yeah. I mean, Nick Cave's well documented addiction to heroin was in full flight while the Birthday Party was around, and he got busted later in New York, which is not a good place to get busted for heroin. No. But he then gave it up. And I recall an interview with him later on in the 80s, where he was asked the question by the interviewer, how are you coping now that you don't use heroin anymore? He said, it's really hard, because heroin was my chemical armor, which is an interesting description. Yeah.
It is indeed.
Yeah, and when you look at his approach to music on this album, Junkyard, as with most of the Birthday Party stuff, he really he's going out of his way. He's always had an obsession with Jesus and spirituality. Here he indulges the really rough end of the pineapple on spirituality. Loves Elvis Presley, and we've discussed before his obsession with Leonard Cohen and some of Leonard Cohen's lyrics and songs that he's known to cover a lot of Leonard Cohen over the years. Really screeches almost his lyrics. And when you see, there's a documentary that if you have any interest in the Birthday Party at all, have a look at it. I'm sure you'll find it online, called Mutiny in Heaven. And we've talked about it here before, which talks about how the band went from a squalid existence in Melbourne and ignored by the record industry, to London, where they had a squalid existence, ignored by the record industry, drug addiction, and it was friggin' cold as well. So it was trading one boat for a much colder one. But they used their harshness of their situation to fuel the music. And when you see clips of them, you talk about something on YouTube, and I'm sure there's lots of that sort of thing around. Mutiny in Heaven has a few clips of Birthday Party Live, and they are really, really full on attacking the audience at the very least in an audio sense. But Tracy Pugh didn't mind swinging his bass across a few heads. And
do you know the funny thing is that their upbringing? They came from the posh Caulfield Grammar School. There's Cave, Harvey, and Calvin, which is where they met. And they're actually listed as alumni of the school, which I find interesting. It's a wonder that the Caulfield Grammar School hasn't ensured that that's removed. But anyway.
You'd think they would, wouldn't you?
And Cave and Harvey were members of the school choir, which I just can't imagine the two of them being there like in angelic sort of singing songs in the school choir, and then moving not long after to this.
Who in their right mind would ever consider Nick Cave angelic?
Well, he's very spiritual, as you said. He is very spiritual, as you said. And there's interesting because there's a song on there, the Big Jesus Trash Can,
which is just wonderful, and I think I'll put that one on the playlist. Just a warning, folks. It's so in your face, and Nick's delivery is not the smooth, besuited crooner that he became 40 years later. It's as screechy and wonderful as you're going to get. He's always had an awesome voice. It's just back then there was very few filters on it, if any. Well, the album itself. Sorry, Mo.
No, well, he's a lot younger. That's the thing. At 20, 18, 19, 20, you're a little bit more unhinged, for want of a better term.
There's a word to describe Birthday Party. I mean, we weren't unhinged when we were that age. Much.
No, we're just fucking stupid. Is what we were. It was just fucking stupid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Look, the cover of the album is something that the kids these days miss out on because they don't. I mean, even when it went through CDs, like 30 odd years ago when CDs became prevalent, a much reduced picture on the cover. Yep. And you'll recall a few years back we had an episode about album covers and our favourite album covers, and they would lose a lot by being reduced to the 4-inch by 4-inch CD cover. And these days you might get a picture from your streaming service and that's about it. So you don't get that album cover. But this one by Ed Roth, as you say, Ed Roth was everywhere in the 70s, Big Daddy, and he had a character that he created called Ratfink, who was a rat monstery type thing on amphetamines, and he used to take great.
Of course.
Yes, all you got to do is look at the teeth and the tongue hanging out and trailing, 3 foot behind, and the vehicles are a nightmare for anyone who really does love vehicles. But huge 4 to 6 tires, all of them smoking, front and back, an engine that was half the size of the vehicle, exhaust pipes that stuck out the back, really, and he did lots of variations of that through the 70s. I used to love that stuff that he did, but I do wonder, the relevance. Maybe one of the band members took a look at his work and said, "Well, that's as chaotic as we are, so let's go with that one."
In fact, if you look at the cover, is that Ratfink on the front of the car?
It is, yes, yeah. He sort of got the radiator cap up his butt.
Yeah, and also a birthday cake for the birthday party.
Well, of course, and I think that's very considerate of him to provide a birthday cake like that. Yeah, and well spotted.
Yeah, it's great.
And amongst everything else that's happening on that cover, he's got a birthday cake with candles. Just lovely.
which seemed to be on a lot of fire on them anyway.
Oh, yeah, everywhere. Production. This album, I know that production's your big thing, and although it's chaotic, the production really stands up. The production, forget about the niceties like separation and things like that, but the production of holding the songs together and holding the approach is Tony Cohen, who's a legendary Australian producer. Pretty much anybody you can name over the last 30 years, Tony Cohen's had a hand in some of their productions, things like The Models, Hunters and Collectors, pretty much anybody. And his approach was take as many drugs as the band and see how you go.
Nice work.
Which when you're with Nick Cave and Birthday Party at that time, that's a lot of drugs.
It's a lot of drugs.
It is. But nonetheless, he still managed to produce and keep control of the album. The other producer that's listed there is Nick Launay, and we talked about Midnight Oil some time back. And Nick Launay is responsible for the Nick Launay and Mark Opitz, of course, responsible for that thumping sound that you get out of early Midnight Oil albums.
Yeah.
So they've got a production team on there that is really capable of handling the rhythm section that held the band together.
It must have been a wild recording session, though. Must have been absolute madness.
Absolutely,
With everybody off their scone, and it's somehow turning in an album that's coherent, which it is a coherent album because it's just mayhem to chaos to craziness to insaneness sort of thing. So there's a theme underlying the whole thing.
With a nice progression between each of those.
That's right. That's right.
But have a listen to the playlist, folks. I think you're going to love it. And I'll put in a couple of later period Nick Cave songs just for comparison. And you can see that he maintained a lot of the anarchy that was in Birthday Party, but just smoothed out some of the edges, maybe a little less heroin, that sort of thing. But I'll also put in there, before the Birthday Party, there was a band called The Boys Next Door, which morphed into the Birthday Party. And there was Nick Cave and Roland Howard again. And it's civilized. Some of the songs, there was their album called Door Door, was very, is the exact opposite of Birthday Party. So, it must have been something in the water.
Yeah, okay. All right, Mick, that's fantastic stuff. Let's move on to our luscious Kate Bush. Give us a bit of info of Kate, mate.
Right. Kate Bush, a wonderful exponent of do-it-yourself. Quite the opposite of the Sex Pistols and the Clash. She did it herself by taking control of the studio. Many other bands around the same time did it themselves by totally ignoring what a studio could do. So Kate Bush, I don't think there's anybody who listens to this podcast who doesn't know at least a superficial exposure to Kate Bush. She was born in 1958. Thanks for the research there, mate. I know you called her up and asked her what's your birth date, Kate.
I did. I asked her where she was born. She said, I was born in the maternity hospital at Bexley Heath, Kent. I thought, that's fantastic. Thank you for that.
No, and apparently she was the daughter of a doctor, which was something that caused a lot of interested comment back in the 70s.
In fact, I saw an interview come music show. I'm not sure what it was, but I just caught the beginning of it. And she had just released her first single, Wuthering Heights, and she was performing it on this show. And the first thing the host of the show says, well, we have a very in that pompous sort of British accent, we have a very interesting person next. Not only is she what did she say? Something like, not only has she produced this wonderful song, she's also the daughter of a doctor. That means something. Of course, daughters of doctors are able to do those sorts of things, as you know.
As you know, of course, yes. The birthday party all practice in Harley Street.
That's right. The birthday party had a strong relationship with their dealer.
Oh, I thought that was Doctor. Yeah.
And her mother was a nurse. So lovely. The doctor and a nurse makes wonderful children.
Well, look, as we'll find as we go on talking about Kate, that condescending approach, she railed against that right from the outset. That glass ceiling and glass walls that kept women in the cage, if you like.
Yeah, that's right.
She said, "Well, I'm not having that." But let's go back a little bit before she broke out.
Yep.
When she was 13, she played the violin, and she played a harpsichord. Not a harpsichord, a
harmonium.
Harmonium, thank you. Yes.
The only reason I thought I remembered that was because because of your love of Nico.
Nico, absolutely. A bit of harmonium goes a long way.
That great song. Just a spoonful of harmonium helps the medicine go
absolutely. Down. Thank you so much, Julie Andrews. Yes. And look, she had and living on the outskirts of London as they were, they had a little barn out the back where she kept her harmonium until the mice ate the innards.
Mummy, a mouse ate my innards of my harmonium. Never mind, darling.
I'll get
have
Daddy
a sweetie.
To take a look at it.
Just have a sweetie and sit down.
Oh dear. From mid-teens, she was recording on a reel-to-reel. So she wrote upwards of 100 songs before she turned 16, and she had them all on a reel-to-reel. Yeah, it's insane, and what a clumsy way of recording things. I mean, that's what they had back then, but sort of there's no digital go to track 19 or anything like that. It's wind it forward, wind it back, and we recall the joys of doing so.
Oh. But it's interesting, like you think of someone like Lorde, who a few years ago was hailed for her song, and she was only a similar age, and wow. But here was Kate. She had produced enough material for about 6 albums by the time she was 16. It's insane, isn't it?
Absolutely. And brush with greatness, or starting off brushing with greatness, a friend of hers, a friend of the family rather, a fellow by the name of Ricky Hopper, had some contacts in the music industry and took the tape that she had made to David Gilmour, he of Pink Floyd fame.
That's pretty lucky.
Isn't it just? Well, it's not what you know. It's who you know. And that helped. But very raw as it was, she recorded it at home on a reel-to-reel, so you don't get a lot of digital playing around, or even any sort of playing around. There was no digital back then. But he still saw the kernel of a lot of talent in those songs. And so he met Kate and offered to fund her re-recording those demos in a proper studio with a producer and so on, so that he could then hawk those around to the various record labels that he had contact with. And again, if David Gilmour comes knocking on your door and you're a record label exec, you open the door.
Absolutely. You're going to say, "Please, sir, what have you got?"
Well, exactly. So EMI stepped up to the plate and said, "Okay, this sounds pretty good. Needs a bit of work. It's very raw and unfinished or unpolished, but we'll sign you." And they signed her for what's been listed as a substantial amount of money. And when you actually do a bit more research, you find it was only 3,000 quid, which, let's put that into perspective. When I started work around the same time, I wanted to buy a leather jacket for my motorbike, and I saved all of my pay for 3 weeks, and the jacket was $75. So 3,000 quid is a lot of money back in 1975 for a 16-year-old girl.
Absolutely. So, I think the average wage was probably around about 30 quid, something like that back in those days. Not much.
Well, that's right. Yeah. So she's got 2 years' salary to just sit there and keep refining and working on what she's got, which is a nice way to go.
No, nice work indeed.
Yeah, all of that work and all of that thinking and development led to an album called The Kick Inside and a single called Wuthering Heights, which is wonderful. It's just her voice, her vocal gymnastics on Wuthering Heights are fantastic. The rest of the album, when we were talking about Let's Do Kate, we recalled that whilst we had exposure to a lot of albums back in a very music-rich environment, Kate Bush's Kick Inside was one of the few where we actually sat down as a group and listened to the album. Everything else we got at parties and in people's cars on tapes and things like that. Maybe a bit on the radio, but we sat down and listened to the Kick Inside fairly regularly, and it was just an exposition, that album. We loved it.
Exposition. I love that word. It's a beautiful word.
Yes. And you can use it, Mum. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, but I would expect that you put a couple of Fs in front of it, so or after it.
Indeed. That's what I do.
I'm not sure how that might play, but that's another story. So the Kick Inside, released in 1977, was an awesome album. The single, Wuthering Heights, let's talk about the single for a moment. Despite the support of David Gilmour, who didn't produce the album, by the way, because he was somewhat involved in skirmishing with a fellow by the name of Roger Waters as they were producing Wish You Were Here.
That would take up a bit of time, wouldn't it? That'd take up a lot of mental energy.
Absolutely. Oh, God, what's he done now?
He's such a dick, isn't he?
Yeah. And it only got worse. Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're back. I think they're back to hating each other again, aren't they? I think they went through a bit of a hate-love, and now we're back to hate again.
I mean, from both of them, we'll never play together ever again. Yeah.
No, fair enough.
So, yeah, and this late in the game, I think that's probably a fairly fair assumption.
You're old enough just to go your own way, mate. Forget it.
But anyway, Wuthering Heights, it's funnily enough, it's not based on the book. She wrote it, and it's based on the story, but it's not based on the book. She actually saw a 1967 BBC version of the story
is that right?
as a movie, on TV, and that's how she loved the story and wrote the book. She did say in a later interview that she went back and read the book just to make sure she had her facts right. Because you can't release a single if your facts aren't right, of course.
Oh, that's right. That would be death to the music industry.
Absolutely, yeah. Imagine somebody saying something wrong. Who'd have thought it? But anyway, so the song, a lot longer than singles were at the time. 3 minutes was the absolute maximum for singles. Wuthering Heights, closer to 5 minutes than 4 minutes.
Yeah, definitely over 4 minutes.
4.5.
Over 4 minutes.
Yeah, most definitely.
Very unusual.
So the record company said, "Nah, you're not releasing that." They in fact wanted another song off that album called "James and the Cold Gun," which was one of the more accessible poppy songs on the album. A lovely little looping piano on it, and I like that, but it's not Wuthering Heights. But the record label said, "Look, 4.5 minutes. How can we promote a song like that? The radio won't play it. People won't understand it. How many reasons do you want?" And the fact that she was a teenage girl, made them think that they could boss around. Weren't they silly?
That's right.
Yeah. So she basically stood her ground and said, "That's the single." And wasn't she proved right?
That's right.
One of the biggest singles ever in the history of rock and roll music. And look, for my money, Wuthering Heights is. I reckon Wuthering Heights is as groundbreaking in its own way as Queen's song a couple of years before Bohemian Rhapsody. Very much. And
it's one of those songs where everybody knows it.
Everybody knows it.
Absolutely. Everybody knows it.
Yeah, which is pretty good for a song that the radio wouldn't play.
And even now, every year they have the most Wuthering Heights Day ever, where people dress in red dresses and go to a park and dance around to the song. And
I'd never heard of that until you told me about it. How awesome.
And it happens, well, I just had a look, let me have a look, see when the last one was. It was 2000, just looking, started off quite small, but 2025, July the 26th, it's around, It was in Australia, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, New Zealand, Sweden, UK, United States, and Scotland. So, so, so yeah, and the funny thing is, like, there's blokes dancing around in their red dress as well, and they're all doing the movements, over the where all the ones where she stretches out and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you and I did that, we'd break a fetlock or something like that, I think.
We'd be arrested, man.
We'd be arrested. So, 26th of July, that's the is that her birthday? I'm not sure. Is that when? What is the 26th of July? Is that when her birthday is?
I don't think so. I think it's just a perfectly good day in the Northern Hemisphere, perfectly good summer's day in the Northern Hemisphere to run around in a red dress on the meadow.
Yeah, maybe.
Or the wily windy moors, of course.
That's right. No, she was born on the 30th of July, so it's around there. So it's 26th of July. So, but within Cooey. Maybe it's when it's convenient, like a weekend or something like that. Anyway, so the most Wuthering Heights. Maybe we should attend one with our red gear on, mate.
Well, I think we're a bit late for this one, but maybe next year we should have a go and maybe do a broadcast from Wuthering Heights Day on the moors,
on the Australian moors.
Where would that be? Let's not dwell on that, but maybe we might have to think of
Tasmania. I think you'll find some. That's about the only spot.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, windy.
The windy
you would certainly find windy down in Tasmania.
That's right.
The album, The Kick Inside, had some other wonderful songs. It had Kite, which is very much a precursor to the music that she would produce on a range of her later albums, and a song called The Man with the Child in His Eyes, which was just beautiful. Oh, he's here again. Much higher than that even. The Man with the Child in His Eyes. Sorry about that, folks. But
that's very good, though, I must admit. That's
do you think,
almost...
Yeah.
It's uncannily like her, isn't it?
Well, that's what
that
I thought.
High voice.
The record company said, no, we're not going to release it.
I reckon that's discrimination. That really is discrimination. When you've got a voice like that, and people can think, what's the difference between Mick's voice and Kate Bush's? And like it's almost they're the same when you hear that.
It's uncanny, brother and sister.
Must be.
The Kick Inside went top 10 worldwide, except the US, of course.
Interestingly, in fact, she never really got big in the US throughout her first lot of recording career.
Very true, very true. And we'll touch on when that changed coming up.
Yeah.
But it went top 10 worldwide with the strange exception of Canada, where it only went to number 95. Now, I've always put Canada in the same box as us and the rest of the civilized world, in their picking up of music.
True.
But to get to only 95, I don't know what went on there. Yeah. But the US, it just didn't hit it. Even though it sold more copies in the US than it sold in Australia, the fact that we had a population of 20 million and sold 50,000 copies versus their population of around 300 million and it only sold 74,000 copies in the US. So, that's life. But everywhere else it went top 10. It was just in every, not just English-speaking world, the whole world.
Staggering.
Staggering, indeed. Now, while I think of it, how increasingly as we do stuff, we find links with other bands and artists that we've covered. So her drummer for all of her early albums was a fella by the name of Stuart Elliott, who just happened to be the drummer for Cockney Rebel.
Oh, is that right?
It is. Yeah. So when
That's
when
interesting.
Steve Harley, it is. So when Steve Harley unceremoniously fired the band, thinking that he was the only talent in the band,
because we did talk about this in our Cockney Rebel Steve Harley show, didn't we? How he was a bit of a prick.
We did indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Did somebody say arrogant? But that's another story. In fact, one thing that was interesting is that he walked back a lot of that later. Probably life had imposed some hardships on him, and he came to realise that perhaps that he wasn't as great as he thought, and that wasn't the nicest thing to do. But anyway, that's another story. So Stuart Elliott was her drummer, and he was responsible for keeping a rhythm on all of her early stuff, which was really nice.
Okay, that's interesting.
And a good link for us. Her second album, Lionheart, she had 3 years to produce The Kick Inside. Lots of work, reel-to-reel, production studio, thinking about the songs, writing, rewriting. And she had 9 months to pump out Lionheart. So
I think, though, interestingly, I don't think she spent a lot of time in the studio with The Kick Inside. It sort of happened pretty quickly. She didn't have as much studio time. She probably had more studio time, but probably less time writing, I dare say.
Less time thinking about what the songs were about and what she wanted to drag out of them. And with Wuthering Heights, she had an enormous amount of time to put it all together. Yeah. So Lionheart, it's regarded now as probably her weakest album.
Yeah.
We liked it at the time, but realistically, when
number
you've
one
got
on the playlist. It wasn't really that exciting. I didn't think.
I didn't think so either.
It's a bit sort of.
And the album as a whole just didn't have the depth that The Kick Inside had for obvious reasons.
Not uncommon though. Not uncommon for people to follow up their second album to not be as strong as their first.
Absolutely. Now, why don't we jump? We're getting close to time. Why don't we jump to your favourite album, Jeff? To your second favourite album.
Well, so to be honest, my favourite album is Hounds of Love, without doubt.
Well, there you go. Good, yes.
But however, I did enjoy The Dreaming, and which is probably regarded as her most overproduced album, which is sort of when she started to get into digital sampling and all that sort of shit. But Hounds of Love is without doubt the pinnacle, and it was an album that was fairly heavily played by me, and the album was rather heavily scratched, both sides. So, yes, why don't you give us a bit of a rundown on Hounds of Love, mate?
Mate, Hounds of Love, 1985, so she'd been at it a couple of years, and the production on this album alone, again, to hark back to your big bugbear, mine's lyrics, yours is production, this is awesomely produced. Every possible aspect you can think of for sound, separation, the recording of the various instruments, putting them together, pace, it's all there. Things like cloud busting, lovely, yes.
And it's
a musical episode, mate.
And the use of sort of Celtic sounds and those sorts of things as well. Like some of the drumming. Which she's always been into she's always been fairly avant-garde. So there's quite a lot of progressive sounds and things going on in this album. And the interesting thing is, it's a two-sided album unusually, it's a two-sided album, Mick, as opposed to Monty Python's Necktie and Handkerchief, which was a three-sided album. This is only a two-sided album. Which basically side one has those massive hits, but side two is more of it's one song sort of thing. It doesn't have any gaps in it and all that sort of stuff. So it's a bit more prog rock.
Well, yeah, she was progressive, and as you say, she introduced a lot of sounds, but never made it unlistenable. As some avant-garde stuff tends to become. So. Cloud busting I loved, running up that hill I loved, and the song where we referred earlier to her not making it in America, this is the album that 30 years after its release made her a hit in the US with Running Up That Hill, which was featured on the TV show Stranger Things.
Which is interesting because it not only featured, it wasn't just there, it was a major part of the show, in that when you played the song, you would be able to get away from the demons, for want of a better term. And there was a girl who was basically in the demon world, who they used to keep playing the song to her all the time so that she would be able to be pulled back out of the demon world, back into reality. So it was a critical part of the actual show as opposed to just like a part of the soundtrack.
Absolutely. And it didn't hurt that it became a critical part of probably one of the biggest hits in cable TV ever.
Yes.
Would that be too much to say? It's certainly an enormous hit, and it's into its 5th season now. I think they're losing it a little bit. But
it's finished now. So the last season, which was much anticipated, which took 2, 3 years, 4 or 5 years before the last season came out. It was much anticipated and sort of took Netflix to the top of the pops again. It was. But that show made her the first person to have a hit. Well, in fact, it was 37 years after the release of the song, it became a number one. And in fact, all of her albums, her entire back catalogue, charted. And she's the first elderly woman, 63 years old, to have the first female to have what was it, like 10 albums in the charts. It's insane.
It is not undeserved, but
No.
But certainly unheard of.
And the funny thing is, a lot of that certainly, as you talked about way back at the beginning of this show, you talked about how she was very much her own woman. She did her own. She basically took the reins, separated herself from the recording company. So all of that money from Hounds of Love, all those streams, she got all the money. The record companies got nothing. So it would have increased her wealth substantially.
Well, good luck to you, Kate, for that. Well done indeed.
So yes, it would have been a massive streaming. And as I said, all her albums ended up into the top 10 or top something or other. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, first artist to ever have that happen too, and a female as well.
Well, absolutely. A couple of albums later, she released a double album after a big break. And we'll talk about that in a minute, the big break. But she released an album called Aerial, which I've got to say, much as I love Kate Bush, I found it fairly... I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get excited about it, despite the fact that it's got her wonderful voice on it, and I love that aspect of it. But I didn't think the songs were terribly interesting. And I know that you have a very opposite view on that, Jeff.
Well... I do. And I was one of these ones, a bit of a fanboy, waiting for the album to come out. So I feel like people lining up to get the latest Apple phone. It doesn't matter how shit it is, you still love it. And how little it's been innovated on, you still love it. So I was one of those ones who was very excited. I was actually following the progress of this album because there was rumours it was going to come out. And so... as we've talked about previously, she went into this hiatus where she didn't actually do any albums for 12 years, and the reason is she went off and did other things, namely had a baby, and they keep talking about how she became reclusive. It's not really the case because she, as she talks about herself, she still went to school plays, she went to the supermarket, did the shopping, and she did the washing. And so the first half of the album is a bit of a pastiche of various songs, not really sort of linked in any way whatsoever. The second half is a bit like the side two of Hounds of Love, in that it's a song, it's one song about a 24-hour period, or so a group of songs about a 24-hour period. So sunrise through to sunset, sunrise again, which is quite interesting. The interesting thing about this album is that, particularly side two, it's very, very sparse. It's a lot of just solo piano work with not much going on as far as other instruments are concerned. So it's a very different album to what she's done. The first side is more of a typical Kate album. So the song Pie, which she recites the first 75 digits, or no, maybe 100 digits of pi, and I think she misses a few out of the middle, is based on a mathematician who, in fact, recited pi to, I can't remember, like a couple of thousand digits. Saw him interviewed. He's a bit weird, oddly enough, because you can imagine that someone who does that is a bit weird. And some of the criticism, I guess, is about some of the mundane songs that she has on there, which is the one about Bertie, her son, which is sort of in a medieval sort of style. Washing Machine, where she talks about the washing, where she sings about washing machines, that type of thing. So, yeah, they can be a little bit. It's a little bit different, but like Kate, a little bit different. The interestingly, the album that she did, another album where she did a remix of Red Shoes and Sensual World. Red Shoes was a digital album. She was very unhappy with it, and so she re-recorded a bunch of songs off that album and produced a new album out of it. Just one album. She re-recorded the vocals and remixed the whole thing with the original tapes. And the thing that's interesting there is that she re-sung a lot of either all or most of the songs, and some of the songs she totally redid. But she had to bring the register down a bit because her voice was, like most older singers, her voice was sort of on the way out a little bit. So she had to reduce the register by a bit to actually be able to sing the songs again. So I thought that was interesting. But that's a really good album too. I really enjoy that album. Look, I loved Ariel, and but as I said, it does get some mixed reviews. There's people who say it is, the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think the one person from Pitchfork said it was like Bertie and Mrs. Bertolozzi, famously noting that turning a washing machine cycle or maternal pride into high art was less avant-garde and more akin to a suburban indulgence. So, and some people regard it as overly sentimental, lacking theatrical hooks of her earlier days and those sorts of things. So, but yeah, as I said, I still enjoy it because I'll go back to the someone else from The Guardian who said, "Vintage Bush, a melodic, organic sprawl of wind, sea, seasons, time passing, dreams, secrecy, and revelation. Organic and exquisite beauty."
God, I'm inspired.
You would be, wouldn't you? So I was just going to say, the only other one, so the director's cut came out after this, which was the mishmash of Sensual World and Red Shoes. She has brought another album out, which I think will probably be her last, which is 50 Words for Snow. There's a few challenging songs on there. There's a duet with Elton John, and there's the song itself, 50 Words for Snow, in which Stephen Fry recites 50 Nordic words for snow, literally, just says the words. So it'll be like, Kuffleflockum.
Well, they've got a lot of snow, so they probably have got 50 words for it.
That's exactly right. So, yeah, so that's probably my least favourite album, to be honest with you. That's sort of, and the duet with Elton John, not so excited about, to be brutally honest.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting, just back on one thing, is that, and I can't remember which album it is on, Rolf Harris is in there. Doing Didgeridoo. Now I don't know whether he's still there. I don't know whether he's in the show notes if you got hold of one of the albums now. But a little bit the man who fell from grace a little bit. But I think
a little bit.
I think he was a friend of Kate Bush's back in the day.
Oh, good heaven! Oh dear. I wonder if he tried anything untoward. since he was renowned for it.
Well, I think she would have been a bit old for him by the time she knew him. She would have been above 16, so I don't think that was really his scene.
Yeah.
So, I think she would have been, something, a little bit, once you get above those lofty heights of 16, you become less interesting for your standard pedophile, don't you?
That's true enough. Yep. But Keith, you're talking about some of these albums, and the later albums are a little bit different. But look, as you once said, as we walked into a Warren Zevon concert, mate, you can read the phone book and I'll be happy. So look, with her wonderful voice, she could read the phone book and it would still have artistic relevance. The latest stuff, it doesn't excite me as much, particularly when compared to her earlier stuff. But I'm a bit like that. I like your old stuff better than your new stuff.
Yeah, look,
pretty much
overall,
for every artist that we talk about.
Overall, we tend to do that, don't we? We tend to go, but I think it's that whole thing about hearing it early as opposed to hearing it later. And when you hear it early, it becomes part of your psyche, and you have to listen. Well, I find nowadays, if I want to enjoy an album, I have to listen to it at least 3 times before it actually becomes. Whereas probably I could hear an album once when I was younger and go, "Fucking love this." Now I go, I'll listen to it again and see what I think about it, and then if it gets me, then I'll listen to it a bit more. But she's. Yep. I think that's the other thing too. The ears are shit.
Oh, that's right. I was going to say your ears have taken a battering over the years.
Oh, they have indeed. Standing next to speakers, too close to speakers in my youth was always a problem.
Tell me about that one. Yeah.
And I think, as you mentioned earlier on, you mentioned briefly Bohemian Rhapsody, and I think we could still always, we've mentioned it before, we can always put it down to the loudest concert we've ever seen.
Probably, yeah. Queen back in 1976 were even louder than Nirvana. Who had that reputation for playing pretty loud, and they were. But that Queen, I think both of us, our ears rung for 3 days afterwards.
Absolutely. It was just a new sensation. And, as we remember, we walked in and there were the speaker stack on either side, which nowadays, you look at even outdoor concerts, they've got those the sort of the speakers that are stacked on top of each other. They go for about 10 metres, but they're only about half a metre wide, and they're on either side of the stage, even outdoor concerts. But in those days, they had proper speaker stacks that looked impressive, and this one was about, I don't know, from my recollection, it was about 100 foot wide, about 100 foot high on either side of the stage, blasting the shit out of us.
Oh, they had to put the band somewhere else because the speakers just took up the stage.
Yeah. Anyway,
absolutely. Look, you talked about her 12-year motherhood break, which, if it was a bloke who did that, it wouldn't even get a comment. But the fact that she was a woman who took that break, and she's labelled reclusive, hard to get at, sort of shunning the world. What crap!
That's right. And
had a life.
If you're a man in rehab, that wouldn't even.
That's right.
No one would even blink. I mean, you look at. I was just thinking of that sort of thing. I was just looking at someone like Heston Blumenthal, the famous chef.
Oh yeah.
Who's been suffering from manic depressive illness, and has basically disappeared for ages because of mental health issues. It's things happen. People move on, do things differently, and I'm sure once again he'll be the sort of person who'll come back with something different. She came back with a great album, I think, and I think we've probably seen the last of her albums. We did not mention ever so briefly her concert stint that she did in London for was it 2 weeks? No, 4. How many shows was it?
22 nights.
Sold out
3 weeks, yeah.
Sold out in
15 minutes. 22 nights. 22 nights sold out in 15 minutes. Yeah, You talk about demand for tickets.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, mate, I think we might call it quits. Say thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Well, folks, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you're enjoying this, tell your friends about us. Send us feedback at mickandthefatman@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. That's it, folks!